Hello. I think we're on. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode from Vegan Education Adelaide. I'm Steph, this is my partner Mark, and we're back talking about different vegan issues. And today's topic, I believe, is talking about the idea of lab grown meat. So we'll be sharing our opinions on this issue and how it relates to veganism and animal rights. But first, I'll hand over to Mark to introduce who this episode is dedicated to.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. If you can see that. Can you see that?
Yep.
Oh, it's not as big as it was last time I had it.
That's okay. Keep going, Mark.
Oh, now it's lost it. This is, I think, Lottie. I'm just going by memory here from Freedom Hill Sanctuary. Lottie was born with juvenile arthritis, I believe. So she gets lots of massages and pampering and things like that. So yeah, I thought it was good to dedicate it to Lottie because talking about lab-grown meat, when animals are born, there's no way to tell whether they're going to be healthy or not. And like, I know it's a bit of a utilitarian argument, but you know, if someone was like Lottie was born, then they're not really useful for the industry. Like, I still feel like animals are being seen as property and objects and used. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, she's getting taken care of at Freedom Hill, which is good.
Yeah, that's nice. Lottie will definitely be very well looked after at Freedom Hill, so that's good. Do you know where Lottie kind of came from? I'm assuming she was just from a farm, and they recognized that she was not healthy and probably abandoned her or something.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I messed up where I was. Hang on a second.
We haven't had an episode for a couple of weeks, so a bit out of practice maybe.
So in March 2021, she was standing in the Flinders Ranges, which is essentially the desert in South Australia. So yeah, born with juvenile arthritis and malnourished. So yeah, I guess now they're looking after her since then.
Yeah, wow, she's come a long way from the Flinders Ranges. It's at least a few hours drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. There you go. Thanks, Mark. All right, lab-grown meats. So, well, actually, first, do we have anything to share, like, from the last couple of weeks? Anything else vegan-related before we get into the main topic of today?
I guess I went out for activism yesterday. We could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Did we go out together since our last stream?
I can't remember now. I remember the last time we went out, but I can't remember if it was before or after our last stream. But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I went out yesterday. Getting a little bit colder coming into winter in Australia, and it was very, very slow in the city. And I was like, my car park ticket was nearing the expiry time, and I was pushing it right to the edge. I was like, oh, can I just wait like a couple more minutes? I'll just push it a little bit because I really haven't had great conversations with people. And then lo and behold, a guy comes up and we have an amazing conversation. And then another gentleman comes up and is just listening to our first conversation. And he's just at first just very happy to just listen to our interaction. And then he gets into the mix. So yeah, it was really cool talking to different people of different backgrounds and hearing they almost do a little bit of activism amongst themselves when they come up with good ideas. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's interesting when you have two different people that don't know each other kind of come up to you and like you're all talking together. Yeah, that's rare. That doesn't happen much with me anyway, but yeah, it's interesting when it does happen.
Yeah, it happened. I think we did talk about it on the stream, actually, now that I think about it, because it did happen when we went out together. Because one of the guys I was talking to was like on the same page across the board, like we shouldn't be objectifying animals. And like coming from him, the other people that were listening were like, oh, yeah, kind of thing. So it was almost like now there's two groups of people with an opinion, which holds a lot more weight than just me preaching to, strangers kind of thing,
Yeah.
because he wasn't holding a sign, he's just a member of the public. So, yeah, it seems a little bit more legit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Was our last video about zoos? Was that our last one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we got
almost
updates?
almost as if people's ears were burning, but maybe hadn't watched our video. I don't know. But yeah, we got into a bit of an online discussion
Debacle.
about zoos, didn't we, in our local vegan group on Facebook that has many thousands of people in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it always ends very frustratingly. There are a couple people that I couldn't see their comments because for reasons, that I won't disclose, I've blocked them. So, but yeah, it was interesting. It's just, yeah, it gets frustrating when you're in a vegan group and people are like fiercely defending animal exploitation. Like, it's not even just that they're kind of like the original post was, someone was questioning, oh, what do we think about zoos, everyone? And
But don't
specifically,
debate, though. Don't debate.
specifically Minato Zoo, because that's known as like being an open, very open range kind of zoo, whatever that means. And so, yeah, but it's okay, I guess, for people to like ask and question because, not we don't all know. Like, you don't know until you know. And but then there were people that were not just asking questions, they were like fiercely defending the idea of zoos, and not just open range zoos, but like all zoos. It was very bizarre, and I definitely was getting a little bit frustrated, but trying to just respond my opinion in a calm way. But yeah, I wonder if we'll ever see the day where, like, in a vegan group, people aren't defending animal exploitation anymore. People aren't defending zoos and things like that, and thinking that zoos are amazing. Like, what is it? What is it with people, vegans, thinking that zoos are like so amazing? And one thing I will just say about it is that I've noticed a common theme is that people think about animals often in terms of species, and especially when it comes to zoos and the idea of conservation and the role that zoos can have in conservation. It's always about species. It's never about the individual animals. And whilst I think, like we said last time, I guess won't go into it too much today because we discussed it last time, but on an ecological, environmental kind of level, yes, it is, important to preserve species and biodiversity. But when it comes to veganism and animal rights, I think it should much more be about the individual animal's rights, not about really like conservation, even though it's all kind of interconnected. But yeah, I just find it interesting that vegans will often talk about species conservation rather than the actual individual animals who are imprisoned in these zoos for the sake of conservation. And
Yeah,
then,
for sure.
and the other frustrating thing was, I said, okay, well, let's just say, fine, some species of animals, let's just say the zoos are helping to conserve those species. What about all the species of animals and the individuals that belong to species that are not endangered at all that are in the zoos? So I know for a fact that Minato, the so-called open range zoo, has a lot of meerkats. They have this whole like meerkat experience thing where people can like go in and like let the meerkats kind of like run along over them on their lap and things like that. Meerkats are not endangered. They're not considered like a threatened species. So why are Minato imprisoning all these meerkats? You know, like that's not for conservation. So, but then the response to that, rather than vegans, other vegans in that group kind of agreeing with me or seeing my point, the response to that was, oh, well, it attracts people to the zoo, which then their money goes towards conservation. Like there's just always an excuse. And I just think that's so, it's just not right. Like it's not fair to those individual animals that are being exploited and being imprisoned there, like half a world away from their normal habitat. And it's just not fair to them.
Yeah, they're unconsenting martyrs, really, for their kind.
Yeah, and then
And we understand that that's not okay with humans, right? Like we have the human rights, and then once we have that established, then we can start thinking about environment stuff. But they can often come into contradiction with one another. Like
for sure.
humans are terrible for the environment. So do we start calling the humans? No, because we realize that humans have the right not to be exploited.
Individual rights.
Yeah. But yeah, vegans for some reason have no trouble throwing animals under the bus to protect other animals.
Yeah. And then someone also posted on that post in the comments, someone posted a link to a story saying that the white rhino, he said, I haven't looked further than just that thing they linked to me, but I said the white rhino is officially extinct from planet Earth. Now, I don't know, I haven't looked into it, like I said, whether the white rhino, because I knew that the white rhino had been extinct in the wild for a long time. But I know that zoos had white rhinos, but maybe that means now that white rhinos are completely gone, like from zoos, from the wild, everything. Like there's not a single white rhino left on Earth. I'm assuming that's what it means. So I don't know if that's true, but that's what they posted. And then I kind of thought, well, if that's the case, so that just kind of proves that not even zoos can save them. Like, is that more evidence against the need for zoos? Because zoos were trying for, like, zoos held white rhinos captive for a long time. And, I mean, the zoo just wasn't effective enough to stop them from going extinct. So it's kind of like, to me, that's almost more evidence against the need for zoos because, well, it didn't even work anyway. I mean, I don't know. There's probably counter arguments to that, but that's what I said to this person, and they just laugh reacted to me, as they were laugh reacting to like everyone's comments.
Yeah.
So
welcome to the people in our chat, by the way, Keystone and an Honest Doubter.
Yeah, welcome, guys. Nice to have you here.
I can't share comments as usual. I think I've logged in under the wrong account, but I can see them, but I can't share them to our screen. So yeah, this is an interesting comment by an Honest Doubter. Permaculture / salviculture, common in Indigenous peoples, are positive for the environment. Western culture is sick, not mankind. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that like Indigenous cultures being like good or positive for the environment, but I think they probably are positive for the environment because they're just not as successful as like at like taking over and like living a long time and breeding and having like large populations. Do you know what I mean? Like if you have a group of people that, you know, the life expectancy is very low and they have trouble increasing their population, you're not going to affect the environment that much.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
So like it's kind of like they're like Indigenous cultures that didn't have massive populations, like obviously you're not going to affect the environment that much. But if you had the same Indigenous population scaled up to like 8 billion people,
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, they also have a rich understanding of the land and, I guess, ecology and, how to work the landscapes so that they're not, I guess, going to make themselves go extinct, you know. But yeah, anyway. Um, so, should we get on to our topic for today about lab grown meat?
Sure. Yeah. I think this is
Ugh, I
another.
hate even just saying it, lab grown meat. Like,
I know.
it's weird.
Yeah. I think it's similar to zoos in the case that, like, it really shows whether people understand what veganism is when they
Mm,
talk about lab grown meat,
mm.
whether they understand the underlying principles of veganism.
So I guess we should maybe start by like discussing what it actually is or our understanding of it anyway. I must admit, um, I think with a lot of the topics we discuss, like, and we've said this before, like we don't tend to do a whole heap of research, partly because, I mean, when you've been vegan for over a decade, like you learn a lot of things along the way. I guess somewhere along the line, I've probably looked into it or something. But also because I think the idea of veganism, our perception of it, or the definition you could argue, is very clear, and
Mm.
like so, I think it doesn't take a lot of research. Like you've got people like Earthling Ed who tend to really like look into like the nitty gritty details of and research around things and studies and all that. Um, Whereas we're kind of just more like, does it use animals? Yes or no? Like, is this in the best interests of animals? Yes or no? And like, you know, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I just want to premise by saying that I haven't done a whole heap of research into lab grown meats, but my understanding of them is that you take a swab from an animal. So you take a swab of animal cells. I'm not sure. I think I have heard that it can be like an ear swab, like somewhere on the ear or something like that. I'm not sure why that works, but anyway. And then they, so again, I don't know all the scientific details, but from that swab of cells, they can grow meat, like that. I believe is meant to look and taste a lot like animal meat, but I'm not sure. I've never had it before, obviously, but I think from what I've seen, the texture of it is maybe like ground. Like it's not like a tough bit of meat. This is so weird to talk about, but yeah, like a patty, like a ground meat patty kind of thing. So that's what I kind of have heard about it. But yeah, it just uses a swab from an animal and they can grow the cells. Um, so that's what it is. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is, to be honest. Like, they're just growing animal body parts from animals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like as you said, like it's not really that necessary to know too much about the nitty gritty stuff. I think you end up going down a slippery slope. Once you know too much, you start arguing from like a utilitarian point of view.
yeah, I mean, I'm just explaining it because then it's just good to have an understanding of what we're
Yeah,
actually talking about. So the facts are that the an animal is used in the process to like get the swab, and it is actually animal cells. Um,
yeah,
the lab grown meat is made from animal cells. So yeah, the fact is that an animal is used in the process of growing this lab grown meat. So that I'm not sure, that might be a misperception some people might have. Some people might think that an animal is not involved, but they definitely are. I don't know. Again, I know you said not to get into nitty gritty, but like I don't know the like how many swabs you have to take from an animal to grow how much. Like how often would you need to swab the animal to like get more cells to grow more meat? I don't really know, but um, yeah, we know for a fact that an animal is used either way.
yeah.
So, is it vegan or not? No.
No.
I think we both agree that,
Did we need
surprise,
a drum roll
surprise.
for that?
Huh?
Did we need a drum roll for that?
Drum roll. No, it's not vegan. So, as most of you, if you've watched our videos before, you probably know that Mark and I, we
A vegan.
we're vegan, and
Just in case we haven't told you. Oh, it's back to front.
we strongly believe that anything that uses an animal's body is not vegan. So the animals that are, even though it's just a swab and it might not be like hurt, it might not hurt them. I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I think having like an animal needs to be there to be the sample to swab. And that would require that this animal, I'm assuming, is a domesticated farmed animal that is owned by humans, that needs to be kept in captivity to take this swab. So that I don't think that they're just like a wild animal that someone one day is just kind of going up to this wild animal, taking a swab and running away. Like that's not how it works. So yeah, I think like that's a really important thing to know. I mean, look, even if it was a wild animal and someone was like going up to them trying to get a swab from them, like that's not really very vegan either. Like leave them alone. They're not just like an object and a resource for you to just swab to use for yourself, you know, like that would be weird anyway. But yeah, the animals used for lab grown meat are still animals. They're still being owned by humans. They're still being exploited, even though sure it may be like a less harmful way of doing it than, you know, slaughtering them. And I would have a lot of questions as well. What happens to these animals? Like how long do, like what are the conditions, like where are they living, and what happens to them? Like do they just get to live out their natural lifespan? Like I know none of this really matters because I'd still say it's not vegan anyway, but I am curious about that side of it too.
Yeah, I think they just live in like a field and stuff. There's a company called Magic Valley in Australia that uses a sheep called Lucy. So yeah, just living out her life in a paddock, I guess. Once they have those cells, but you know, like once you can use Lucy, then you're allowed to use all animals, right? It doesn't change the mindset that it's okay to use animals.
Yeah, like it would still require many, many animals on many different farms to be
Yeah.
used to grow the lab grown meat. And yeah, that's not okay. We're abolitionist vegans, so we believe that animals just should not be human property. They should not be resources and commodities and objects for us to own. And these animals that are being used to make lab grown meat, they're still commodities, they're still property. Like I said, they're not free wild animals or anything. So on those grounds alone, like I'd say it's not vegan. It's still exploiting an animal. There's not much more to say about it than that, to be honest. But
Well,
I guess we can talk about maybe some of the arguments for lab grown meat that vegans come up with.
well, yeah. Do we want to talk about our political savior at all in Australia?
What do you mean?
The lady in Parliament.
Oh, yeah. Georgie Purcell.
Oh, okay, you said it.
Well, come on, we got to say, if we're going to talk about it, we have to say the name.
All right,
Georgie.
here you go. I'll share my screen.
So Georgie is a politician for the Animal Justice Party in Australia. And I'm pretty sure she's like a self-proclaimed vegan. Like she would call herself vegan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But she recently was in the news or promoting. I don't know if it was even news, but on her page she was promoting that she was eating lab grown meat. Are you sharing a picture of it or something, Mark?
Yeah, can you see it?
Hang on. Yeah, this is me eating pork, but not a single animal died for it. I'm calling for the government to fund the development of lab-grown meat because it helps animals, the planet, and us people. So this is Georgie Purcell, self-proclaimed vegan of the Animal Justice Party. So
I guess
yes,
she's not vegan anymore, right? Because the company that she's eating meat from has explicitly stated that their product is not vegan.
yeah, true.
And if she's eating that, then she's not vegan, right? If she's happy to eat non-vegan.
Yeah. Oh, I just think this is such a
This is
weird
this is like a
post.
vegan
This is
eating
me eating
free-range
pork.
eggs. This is like a vegan eating free-range eggs to prove to everybody that free-range eggs taste just as good as cage eggs. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Even
what are you doing?
even just like, this is me eating pork, like calling up pork, like I don't know, there's just so much wrong with that. Like it's a pig, like it's a pig's like it's not pork, Like I just find it weird when yeah, vegans like all these euphemisms are used to kind of like um create a distance between the actual animal and hide like what it actually is people are eating. So like pig flesh, people say pork instead of pig flesh and that kind of thing. So to like call it pork, like I don't know, it's just weird. It's like yeah, but anyway.
Hmm. It looks
So
like we
yeah,
have a
I guess she's
consensus out of the comments and us that it's not vegan. For once, we all agree on something.
yeah.
I wish I could
Um,
find the video of her talking in Parliament about it as well. Like, she was like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think. The She was a bit like giddy about it or something. I don't know if giddy's the right word, but a bit like laughing about
yeah,
it,
she,
like,
well, in
haha,
that
like they
photo,
ate lab-grown meat. Oh, like,
I mean, in
but
that
it tasted
photo,
the same, or like, it was really
yeah.
weird.
Yeah, it looks like she's kind of almost laughing a bit in that photo. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And it was a
I
bit
find
like
it I find it
icky.
interesting how so she said but not a single animal died for it. And again, I think it really just comes down to this idea that somehow it's about like saving animals from like dying, like rather than exploitation itself. Like it's this whole kind of, the fact that she's focused on, no animal has died for it. It's like, yeah, I think it's still this kind of welfarist mentality. Like, um, oh, it doesn't matter if the animal's being exploited and being
Mm.
used and being owned and still a commodity. That doesn't matter because, well, at least they didn't die for it. Like, it's just, I don't know,
Vegetarian.
still just like off target. It's still just kind of focusing on the wrong. Like, when as vegans are we going to start focusing on animal rights, like to not be exploited and used and seen as resources and commodities? It's still very much just about the harm that's caused to them or the cruelty and whether they died or not, like rather than whether they're actually being exploited. So I just find that wording very interesting that it's just about the animal dying and nothing else really matters, you know.
Yeah.
That's yeah, kind of frustrating to me because it's not just about the animal dying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I mean, this is quite similar to the conversation I had yesterday with two guys that were born in India. So they were saying that I don't know if it's just their local community or the wider community in India, but a lot of them have cows for milk. And the cows are very sacred. They were saying they're kind of their god's favorite animal or ordained or something like that. But they were very much arguing for that. But we don't kill the cows. The cows are kind of walking around. We don't really exploit them. Um, so, like, I can see how vegans, when you're talking to someone like that, you try and figure out all the ways that the animals are harmed or killed or abused in like overtly horrible ways. Um, But it was interesting sticking the conversation to being like about how you perceive the animals as your property, as your objects. Those animals are there for you to use, um, and because they see animals as here for them to use, then when they came to Australia, they still drink milk. Like,
Mhm.
and they know, and they admitted that they don't know where that milk comes from. Like, they don't have a cow in their own backyard. They drink the same cow as everybody. Drink from the same cows as everybody else in Australia. You know,
Yeah.
like if they actually believed what they said, right, they would, you know, only drink from that cow from their community. And then when they come to Australia, they'd be like, oh, this is horrible the way you treat cows over here. We're not going to partake in that. But they don't, right? Because their mentality hasn't shifted.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
But
see that the
still,
same with lab grown meat, right? If our mentality doesn't shift, we can use animals to make lab grown meat. That means we can use animals in, like, who's to say we can't use animals for other things as well? Like, there's
yeah.
no mentality shift in that.
Yeah, there isn't. And yeah, like I said, pork, well, it's still kind of perpetuating this idea that like pork is something that you eat, and
Mm.
so I think it could potentially be damaging even just in that idea that like you said with the milk, it's like I think milk becomes still just like an object that you eat, a food, you know. And so then it doesn't matter kind of like where it is or where you are or where it comes from, like you still kind of just have that mentality that like milk is just something that I drink, and I think with the lab grown meats, it's like I think in our minds it is kind of still just perpetuating this idea that like animals, pork, whatever it is, like is something that is okay to eat, and I don't know,
Mm.
maybe that's a bit of a fallacy, but I
It's
think
not,
it's
because that's
just,
the world we live in now.
yeah,
Like,
and I
it's too
think it's
late.
like
Like, the
vegans doing the lab grown meat. I wonder if that becomes like a big thing, vegans eating lab grown meat. I wonder if then that almost kind of will make meat eaters feel better about eating meat, because then it almost kind of seems like, oh, okay, everyone's just eating pork now, and well, you get yours from the lab, I get mine straight from the animal. Who cares? Like it might kind of like, do you know what I mean? Like it might,
well, that's already happened, right? We have a vegan politician eating animals again.
yeah, pork, yeah,
Like, yeah, we spoke about this with Tim after watching Chicken Run, because a lot of people say, you know, like, oh, if you could just snap your fingers and everyone just ate lab grown meat, would you do that? And I said, I think my response was, does that mean the vegans are eating lab grown meat? Because then no. Like, why would you want people that are against using animals to then go back to using animals?
mm,
You know, it's not like we live in this um, isolated system where magically all the people who eat meat are just going to switch to using lab grown meat. You know,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, exactly,
and
and
what leg do we have to stand on if we have vegans using animals?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
how is she going to convince someone to be vegan now?
Yeah, like it almost kind of makes veganism look like a bit of a joke. Like, oh, a vegan's eating pork. Like, sure, it was grown in a lab, but it's still using an animal. And yeah, like it kind of makes veganism just like people might not take it as seriously. I mean, look, it's already a joke, really, the whole movement. As Keystone says, new welfareism is rife within the vegan movement. So true. Roger Yates. Yeah, I've seen some of Roger's videos. And yeah, I think I liked what I was hearing when he was talking about it. You've watched a bit too, Mark, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I was a bit skeptical of Roger Yates because he does talk a lot about. I'm not sure, maybe I'm getting him mixed up with someone else, but as far as I am aware, he focuses a little bit on veganism being good for people. Like,
Okay.
uh, yeah, like it's not this like justice for animals, but it's I don't know, like he mixes human interest into it. It kind of gets a bit sticky.
Yeah, I'm not sure like exactly what examples you're talking about. It might not always be a bad thing to do that, but yeah, if it's I don't know.
Yeah.
And Florida's banned lab-grown
I
meat.
found the video of her talking in Parliament. What do you think our IT skills are to be able to share that? It's just on Facebook.
I don't know if we've shared shared a video before on here. I guess you can try. I'll keep talking. Yeah. My focus is also human health interest before ethics. I mean, sure,
Do you
like
mean like
you can be interested in human health, but I mean that's not like that's just not what veganism is about, I suppose. Like veganism is specifically about animal rights. The definition itself. I mean, look, there's a lot of debate around the definition, and everyone kind of almost has their own definition, really. But I like to go by the Vegan Society definition because that's kind of where the term vegan originated from, and there's a backstory there. But I guess, yeah, veganism to me, and by definition, is about animal ethics and animal rights first and foremost, and anything else like human health benefits, environmental benefits is just kind of like a bonus. But yeah, I guess if you're gonna call yourself a vegan, I think you've definitely got to make it clear that animal rights, like basic animal rights, like the right to not be a slave, to be exploited, to be property, to be harmed, especially unnecessarily, is like the most important thing, I suppose.
Yeah, what happens when you have like conflict of interest, like say something benefits human health at the expense of animals? Like how do you weigh that up? Like pets or hunting, or like people get enjoyment out of shooting animals out of the sky. Like they would get massive dopamine hits, you know? Like it's, you know, like people have pets for purposes to look to like, what are they called? Pets? Not companion animals. There's a word for like when the animals like look after the people for like their mental health and stuff.
Therapy animal.
Yeah, therapy animals and stuff. You know, it's like this conflicting interest. Like anytime you bring in human interests into it, it's just we're back to square one, right?
Yeah. I'm also very interested in human health, and I'm pro like being healthy and stuff like that. I'm a psychologist myself. It's my job to like help people, their mental health, everything like that, to look after themselves and everything. But yeah, I guess when it comes to veganism, it's like they can work. They don't have to conflict, I suppose. But yeah, I do think that like I want basic rights for everyone. Basic right not to be a slave and to be owned as property. That to me is like the most important thing. And then once you kind of like have that, well, then you can kind of work out what else do humans and animals need, you know, on top of that.
Yeah.
But if it's like, yeah. Anyway.
Should we try and share this video?
Yeah, you can try.
Should I turn my volume down? I'm a bit scared. Like, I'm not sure how this will work.
Yeah, do I need
to? So I have to click it, I guess. Oh, is that only a picture? Oh, I thought it was a video. That was a fail. I've seen this video, so where is this video? All right, stop sharing. I'll see.
Keep looking.
Find the video.
Yeah.
That was a disappointment.
So a big argument that I think a lot of vegans, like why they support the lab-grown meat, is because they think that, okay, if like obviously it does less cruelty to animals, right? So they think that if somehow lab-grown meat can replace, well, either fully replace non-lab-grown farmed, I don't know what you'd call normal meat, whatever. If it could somehow fully replace that, or even probably partially replace that, I think a lot of vegans would see that as like a win, because it means it's like a utilitarian kind of thing. It's like less suffering, I suppose. So I think that's that's pretty much the reason I think that Georgie Purcell and any vegan would support the idea of lab-grown meat, is that they would hope that it would replace the farmed meat and cause less suffering. But again, I think that's a very short-sighted kind of view. Like if we really care about animal rights and we really, really want what's, like thinking kind of more long term, why not just kind of demand more? Like, why kind of be lenient about it? And it's almost like meeting the non-vegans halfway. Like, okay, well, fine, if you want to eat pork and meat and stuff, well, let's just do it in a less harmful way, a much less harmful way. But it's like, no, like we should just be demanding more than that. We should be demanding that people respect animals on a fundamental, basic enough level, that we stop seeing them as resources and commodities and just things for humans to manipulate and use however they see fit. Like, I think we just need to be a bit more radical than what is currently happening in the movement. Like,
Yeah.
the current movement, in the hopes of like reducing cruelty, I think it just fails to establish clear basic rights for animals. And that's my
Yeah,
issue.
clear boundaries or clear goals, I suppose.
Yeah. Like, I think as a movement, the vegan movement is just not, I mean, probably a lot of people would laugh at this, but it's not radical enough. It's just not radical enough. Um, instead of basic rights, it's about, oh, let's just like reduce cruelty, but also we want to eat meat, so let's just like make lab grown meat so that we can still kind of have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just sad. It's hard to watch that happen, because it's like animals just deserve better. Animals deserve more than that. Um, we've just got to fight a bit harder for them to be free once and for all and not exploited by humans anymore. But yeah, so it's the whole reducitarian kind of thing, isn't it? Reducing suffering, but at what
Yeah.
expense?
Yeah. And as soon as you put it in that framework, then we're back to the slippery slope to what we have now, right? It's just what is the standard of reducing suffering? To like what degree are you trying to reduce suffering? Like how much suffering is okay?
Yeah. 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 I also wonder, with like, it's kind of like welfareism. Like, would non-vegans, or like, I'll say meat eaters, I guess, like farmed meat eaters, do you think that they would eventually kind of turn to lab grown meats anyway, like as a more ethical option, kind of like they do with welfareism, free range eggs and stuff like that? I wonder if they would kind of like, I guess what I'm saying is, does it have to be vegans that spearhead this kind of lab grown meat thing. Because I just kind of think, if lab grown meats are going to be just this new kind of welfareist way of reducing suffering, who should be really pushing for that? Because I kind of have the belief that vegans should be like, the vegans are kind of like the only people in the world really that are meant to believe in the basic rights of animals and reject the idea of animals being used as resources and property and all that.
Yeah.
So like, it should be vegans' job to like be radical and just stick to their guns about no use of animals. And then, I don't know, let the vegetarians or just the non-vegans like do lab grown meat and shit like that, and like, I don't think it should be vegans that are like promoting lab grown meat.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, I don't know if I articulated that very well, but
Well, it undermines everything, right? Like if you have someone who eats, like uses animals to a, level 100, and then you're trying to convince them, hey, we should stop using animals. And then they go, well, you use animals though. Oh, but I use animals less than you. It's like, to what degree do you want them to then reduce? Like, do you want them to stop using animals, or do you want them to reduce using animals? And if they're at level 100, maybe they reduce to level 90. Is that okay? Are you okay with that? Like, is that ethically okay to be using animals level 90? You know what I mean? Like, we're just kind of like, it's so arbitrary.
Yeah. It's
It
funny you
reminds me
mention
of
levels, because I've heard people talk about like levels of veganism before. Like, I'm a level 1 vegan. Like, I don't know. I can't even remember, but like level 10 or something was like that you don't eat anything that has a shadow or some, like, it was just a joke kind of thing, but that just reminded me of it.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like when people say, like when non-vegans have a go at other cultures feeding dog when they eat cows. It's just like, why is that worse? Like, it's just such an arbitrary distinction. Like, veganism is the only thing that creates this like rule to follow that makes sense and,
Yeah.
and protects animals from exploitation.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you degrade that boundary, it's just fair game. Like, everything goes.
Yeah.
That's why we
Exactly.
have what we have. That's why we have everybody's against factory farming. Well, that came from we can use animals.
Yeah. And that's why we're abolitionists, because we recognize that there's got to be some kind of baseline right that all animals, human or non-human, must have to protect their interests both on an individual level and on a large scale level, so.
Yeah.
And I like to think that I always have an open mind, but honestly, ever since I learned about the theory around abolitionism and kind of thing, like, I don't think I'll ever not be an abolitionist. Like, it just makes so much sense, and I just so strongly believe in this baseline right of everyone, every sentient creature, to not be owned as the property of someone else. Like, it's just so basic, and that's what I'm always going to advocate for. Unless, I mean, look, something could change my mind, but in the last 10 years, nothing's changed my mind yet. And I wish that all vegans or people that claim to care about animal rights and these issues, I wish that they would kind of see it the same way. But obviously people like Georgie Purcell and people that support lab grown meats, I guess, I don't know if they do see it that way. I guess they don't.
I feel like maybe they're defeated or something. They feel defeated. But, well, she is a politician. Politicians often have to butter everybody up and play the game.
Yeah, true. Oh,
That's
yeah.
why this has got to be a social justice movement, not a political movement. Should we try again?
Do you think you've got it working?
This is a video. Let's see.
There are people out there who will never give up eating meat. Now that I've tried it, I'm convinced they don't have to give it up.
Oh, wow.
Is that the whole video?
No, I just thought that was fucked. They don't have to give up
Yeah.
meat. That's lovely. Good
Yeah.
on you,
Oh,
vegan. Should we continue?
yeah.
The launch of Magic Valley cultivated pork was the first time I'd eaten meat in many, many years, and it was just as I remember it. This incredible development is a game changer, and I hope the Minister will commit to visiting Magic Valley and learning about these exciting opportunities that support environmentally friendly innovation right here in Victoria. If it means cruelty is off the table, then why would you eat anything else? The reality is there are people out there who will never give up eating meat.
I'm pretty sure we have that. It's called tofu.
That is such a defeatist thing to say. I agree. There are people out there who will never give up eating meat. Okay, like, sure, that you might believe that, and who knows, maybe it's true. But like, do you really have to say that? Like, I don't know. I do feel like that is very defeatist thing.
But
Like,
then giving them permission as a vegan to say they don't have to stop eating meat.
yeah,
So
yeah.
before, I don't know how long this is going to take to go mainstream, but like in the meantime, are you okay with them eating animals and using animals?
Yeah, like you mean until lab-grown meat goes mainstream?
Yeah, say lab-grown meat goes mainstream in 20 years. For the next 20 years, she's fine saying people don't have to give up eating meat.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's just so weird.
This is
What are
our
you doing,
leading
girl?
vegan politician, mind you, like the voice for animals in Parliament.
Yeah, super weird. Ugh.
So yeah, I guess she's not vegan then.
Was this speech written by the company that made lab pork? Yeah, I reckon. Is she like being paid by them or something to do this? Or
I don't know. Yeah,
maybe
politics
she
gets very
is. Oh, I
tricky.
didn't even think of that. She probably is. Oh, I want to look into that. I want to see if she actually was paid by them now.
Oh my goodness, someone's at the door.
Oh, okay. Someone's rung the doorbell. That's so weird. No one ever comes to our house. Should I?
I'll use technology to check who it might be.
This is awkward.
Dun dun dun.
Hang on, I'll be back.
No, we don't need to. Oh my god. All right. Well, Steph's gone, so I'm in charge. I can say whatever I want. This is a cool business card that we made up for Vegan Education Adelaide. We take this I take this literally everywhere I go, to work, to the shops, just in case I strike up a conversation with anybody. But it's really good for activism because it's so small. If I hold it back here, it looks small. Fits in my pocket. It's really easy to give people lots of information. It's got a QR code to Linktree, which has some links on how to go vegan, what veganism means, and it connects us through email for people that don't like social media and Facebook and all that. And it's got a little logo on the back. But yeah, I thought that would be a good idea for just literally anybody, even if you don't have a group, like a formal group that you're a part of, to have some kind of like card or something that shares your information or other information on how to go vegan. I was just explaining our business card.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it wasn't. It was just someone that's trying to get us to change our energy provider. Anyway, yeah. Why would you anything else? Yeah, so
Yeah, so we
weird.
have the alternative already. It's cool.
Yeah, why would you eat, any kind of like tofu or like soy-based products when you could eat real animal cells? Ew.
See, like, was that a accurate description of how she came across as well? Like a bit like giddy, a bit like
Yeah, she was
a naughty
laughing.
school kid kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a bit weird.
I
Yeah.
think she's probably, it's like she's trying to impress them. Like,
I mean,
Like,
look, I've
I
already.
work with children. I work with children, and the way she's talking is the classic kid that's done something wrong to look cool in front of their friends. Like that is like
Yeah,
she knows that it's
I,
shady, but she's
I
trying to
think
look cool in front of her friends. That's
I
what.
think you're spot on with that vibe, Mark. Yeah. um, yeah, I know it's weird. Yeah, why would you eat anything else? Like, I don't know. Maybe because anything else is not made from an animal. Ah, yeah, super weird. But I've
Yeah,
had criticisms of Georgie before anyway. Like she,
supports
um,
pets.
yeah, she's like not against having pets and that kind of thing. I don't know. Like, well, she was wearing a t-shirt one time that it was like it said like greyhounds, like oh, it said like pets, not bets. So
Yeah,
it's like saying like greyhounds should be pets, not you know things that you bet on, which I mean, I obviously disagree with the greyhound racing industry, but I also disagree with the pet industry.
yeah.
And yeah, she's just done some questionable things before, but she is known as the like the vegan in Parliament, you know.
Not anymore, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was a bit shook when I saw that video, to be honest. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of and I saw that video after I'd already thought about what about vegans going back to using animals? Like the the degrading of the ethical principle that it's wrong to use animals. Like
Yeah.
promoting this kind of stuff has an effect on vegans who are already socially isolated. They're
Mm.
already going against the flow
Mm.
and
Yeah.
to like not pressure them but like degrade their position
Mm.
is dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also just like I guess from a speciesism perspective as well, like it's just yeah, again, it's kind of like I know eating meat has been something that humans have always done pretty much, but it's still kind of like you're you're eating the cells from an animal and like still calling it pork and all of that. And it's just like it's still kind of gross. Like imagine if that was a swab. Why don't we do human cell swabs? Like imagine if it was a human flesh. Like,
Yeah.
ugh, I don't know.
Well, yeah, we don't do humans because we understand that we shouldn't use humans for food.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Like
just wish we could
you
get to a point where it's like animals are just not food.
yeah, like you start changing them, and like if we all of a sudden started using humans, like to cultivate human meat, like you start changing the perception of humans, right? Like a human is not for their own purpose, but their purpose is to feed you. You start
Yeah.
changing your social relationship to humans.
Yeah. So like a pig is not just like an animal that their own, their own self and an individual, but they're also pork.
Yeah,
Like they're still I think that is a good way of describing why that using that word pork bothers me still for lab grown meats because it's like a pig is not just a pig, it's also pork, you know.
yeah. And I think like even on their website, like I think it's Lucy the lamb. Like you literally know who you're eating essentially. Like that's yeah, it's a bit messed up.
Hmm.
But yeah, what about all the like I'm sure lots of people are gonna want to try lion meat and platypus meat and koala meat and like do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, weird. I don't know. You reckon it
Elephant,
might open the
they want to try
floodgates?
elephant meat because
Yeah.
like it's not we're not challenging the paradigm that it's okay to use animals. We're just
Yeah.
changing the way in which we do it.
That's actually, I never thought of that as well. Like, it might open the floodgates to then we might actually start eating these other, like using these other animals for meat. Like they might actually start swabbing other types of animals and
Well, yeah,
using.
we've got a lot of animals in the zoo. We can use them.
Weird. Ugh, hope it doesn't go there. Anyway, I think we should wrap up. But I guess to summarize our opinion, I guess, no.
Well, by the definition.
By definition of veganism, no, eating lab-grown meat is not vegan. And no, vegans should not be supporting, like, reach higher, okay? Stop supporting the use of animals. Be more radical than that. Aim higher. Be abolitionist, advocate for the abolition of the property status of animals and the resource status of animals. Animals are individuals who have a right to autonomy, just like we do, and who should not be slaves. And yeah, just don't compromise that just because you think, oh, people are just never going to stop eating meat. Like, that's just, no, like, demand that they do, demand that they stop, and just keep demanding that. And I don't know, I just think as vegans, like, someone has to just have a baseline, like the right, advocate for baseline rights for animals without compromise.
Yeah.
That should be vegan.
And yeah, one thing we've learned through activism as well is most people do not know what veganism is. I asked a guy, because the guy was like, oh, here's my problem with veganism. And I said, okay, before you give me the problem, can you define what veganism is? Like, what's your understanding of what veganism is? And he said, not eating animals or milk. And I said, okay, that's what we do, but do you understand the principle of veganism? And he was a bit confused. And then I said, the principle of veganism is it's not okay to use animals. Animal slavery is wrong. That principle then informs your choices. And those choices are, if you think animal slavery is wrong, then you shouldn't eat animals and you shouldn't eat their secretions. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay, I didn't know that. Like, he'd only just understood it from, like, the food practical side of it, but didn't understand the underlying principle. And I think 99.9% of people that we speak to in the public do not understand what veganism is. They do not understand the vegan principle. And I think this is part of the problem, is even vegans don't understand what the principle is. They only understand maybe like most of the application of the principle, but not the principle itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to, like, be more hardcore about talking to people about what the principle is. We're so focused on the practical application without actually addressing, okay, why is it that we don't use animals?
Yeah, for sure.
Because like, of course, if you're like, it's wrong to eat an animal. Oh, well, I don't eat animals. I just go to the zoo.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but you're missing the whole point. You're missing the underlying reason why we don't eat animals.
Yeah. Well, that's why we are doing this. That's why we interact with other vegans on the vegan groups and try and educate them about it as well. And that's why we do activism in person. We're trying to kind of have a few different approaches, aren't we, to vegan education.
I'm still so salty from being blocked.
We'll have to talk about, maybe we can do the next episode about that. There was another post in the vegan Facebook group about leather and what you should do with leather belongings. So, like, if you have an item of leather that maybe you acquired before you were vegan or before you realized how wrong it was. Someone had posted, what should I do with this was it leather shoes or something? What should I do with these
whatever,
leather shoes on the vegan group? And it opened up a big discussion, and Mark ended up being the person that posted it, ended up blocking Mark rather without any cause, or rather unnecessarily, I think.
Yeah, a vegan blocked me for saying we shouldn't sell animal body parts.
But yeah, maybe we could talk about that next time.
And again, that's because they're just looking at the practical application of not eating animals. Like, they're not looking at the underlying principle that you shouldn't commodify animals. Like, it's wrong to commodify someone. That informs your decisions. They're kind of not understanding that initial reason.
Yeah, and just as a final thought, I think in these kinds of situations, lab-grown meat, leather, whatever it is, anything, ask yourself, what if they were a human?
Mm-hmm.
What would we do if they were human?
Mm-hmm.
Would we want this to happen to humans? And that should kind of give you your answer. Like, if you wouldn't do it,
rule of thumb.
well, unconsenting humans, I should say. So maybe humans that are non-verbal or don't have the ability to consent, right?
Yeah.
So would we do this to unconsenting humans? And if the answer is no, then that should kind of tell you a lot about whether it's vegan and whether we should be doing it to animals.
Yeah, that's a pretty good rule of thumb.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up there. Thanks, everyone.
Don't commodify animals. The end.
We'll be back again soon with a video. I don't know, just as a heads up, whether we're gonna be sticking to weekly videos or whether it might be every couple weeks. Not sure yet. We'll see how we go. But anyway.
And our next outreach event is on the 8th of June.
Yes. Not that anyone from Adelaide is watching this.
A plane ticket to Adelaide for the 8th of June. Thanks, Honest Data.
Who is also contrarian, by the way. Did you see that comment?
I did.
Yeah.
Contrarian 420 is now an Honest Doubter.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.